everybody, Livingston here. Today we're jumping into another fun-filled adventure into the Outer Limits. This time it's Season 1, Episode 7, O.B.I.T. Not sure what that means yet. And it came out November 4th, 1963. Looking forward to jumping into it, but before we do, let's jump into the comments section and see what you had to say about last time's episode. Since it's been a little while since I've done an actual Outer Limits, I've been a little bit on the busy side, so it's kind of hard for me to jump into this, but I'm always doing the Twilight Zone. It's the first show I started with, so look for that every Wednesday. I like to release this on Mondays, so Monday 8 o'clock is when I will be airing the Outer Limits from now on. Anyways, let's jump into your comments from, I guess, 2 months ago and see what you had to say about it. Jonathan Stein says, time travel stories are always confusing, but I give this one credit for trying to be consistent with its internal logic. I agree. I enjoyed the logic when it came to the time travel aspect of things. As soon as you change what happens in the past, then at some point, if you came from the future is now different. It's all changed. It's not the way it was going to be in the future that he came from, and now it's supposed to be a better place. And whether or not he actually comes into existence as something else, or if he's just wiped out of existence altogether, that was left up to your own interpretation of the timeline. But yeah, I thought the way they thought it through and how they were going to do time travel makes sense. Andy DeFilippo says, my favorite, the Xanti Misfits. Well, we're not there yet, but I'm looking forward to the Xanti Misfits. Renee Ziscribe1229 says, hey Livingston, this episode was very special for many reasons. The opening excerpt was a nod to a very famous scene from the original 1931 movie Frankenstein. In the long version within the show, we see Noelle kissing a frog like the Frog Prince fairy tale, indicating she didn't really love Bertram Cabot. The story was so well crafted that we were actually rooting for the monster this time. Very true. The scene set on Earth in 2148 was a model rocket shot in camera with the actors in the forefront superimposed, with the use of a green screen rather than shot in an actual desert. Most likely, it was done so because of all the strife the actors and crew of the Twilight Zone experienced while filming these dreaded desert episodes like King 9 Will Not Return, The Rip Van Winkle Caper, The Lonely, and many others. The library matte painting and set will be featured in a Season 3 episode of Star Trek, and for once, it will be a pay-forward situation. The year 2148 was not selected at random. It is one of many numbers called angel numbers, and are supposedly divine messages sent from the spiritual realm. One angel number you may have encountered yourself repeatedly is 1111 on a digital clock. Thank you for your great reviews. Well, I appreciate the comment. Thank you very much for Nays Scribe. I do agree why they would use a set instead of actually filming in the desert, because sand likes to get in the cameras, especially ones that were made back in the day. And if you had sand inside the camera, it gets onto your film and then it scratches the film and creates issues into the post-production process of editing. Back then, this day and age, it's not so much of an issue because we use digital cameras now. And cameras are just a little more well-built, even though they can become an issue and still need to be taken care of more so in a desert climate compared to, say, the kind of climates that most people live in, with rain and foliage, things of that nature. But if you're living out in Arizona or somewhere in the Sahara, you're going to have issues with cameras from time to time. Alan Smith 1989 says, for me, this is one of 2 outstanding episodes in this show's history. The other episode was in the 2nd season and won the show a U.S. television award. This episode was very brave in its downer ending because, as far as I know, U.S. network exclusive executives liked positive endings, but let's not forget that mankind's future would be assured, so not all was negative. One of the few Outer Limits episodes that I rewatch and still enjoy. Yeah, it's a very enjoyable episode for sure. I definitely like the acting in it. Martin Landau did a wonderful job. But when it came to it was a downer of an episode when it came to the end, I gotta say, because he disappears and then suddenly she's going into a future she has no idea what she's running into. If the future has changed, then maybe she's going into an advanced society and she'll end up probably prospering and maybe depending on where she lands, if she can get out and suddenly she's somebody out of time, might create an issue. It would have been an interesting episode to see what she would have ran into at some point. It would be interesting to do a sequel series, but it probably won't happen. Stephen DeLuca says, several things work to make that a successful episode. The reason for their falling in love with each other is that they are both dreamers who live their lives through books. All Andrew has in his bleak world is the enjoyment of books. His first instinct when he approaches her picnic blanket is to glance at her book. She is seen reading twice and characterizes herself as not a person like her betrothed, who is a man of action. It's a completely unrealistic plot and premise, pretty much right from the start, which works in its favor because you have to suspend your disbelief right away and are not bothered later on when the story dives completely into romance. 3, the dialogue, music, and photography. 4, the unexpected ending, which is tragic. Everybody loses except the human race. That's true. Did you notice that after the escape from the wedding, he never transforms himself when she approaches him in the forest? She loves him, so she can't see his physical ugliness at this point. His completely wacko attempt at dissuading Bertram Cabot from marrying Noelle is consistent with a man who has little to no practice with 1960s social graces. On the technical side, the dissolves from Andrew crushing the flowers, foreshadowing what he thinks he will have to do later, to the church bell indicating the impending wedding, to him lying on the bed with a gun was a very rare and narratively effective use of multiple dissolves. Also, Conrad Hall's photography and lighting. Shirley Knight never looked better in her life. Mark Lando's tooth gleaming with a blast of sunlight just as he says that he is ugly. Noelle running through the forest in her wedding dress, wreath-like being photographed using a diffusion filter. The two of them running along the riverbank reflected in the water, the light coming up on Martin Landau's face, which had been in shadow as Shirley Knight tells him they can make a better future and then kisses him. Anthony Lawrence went on to write a lot of TV. He wrote a handful of Hawaii Five-0 episodes, some of which were quite good. He also wrote one of the first season's worst episodes, Children of Spider County, which has a couple of top-notch soliloquy delivered by Kent Smith, but otherwise makes little to no sense and is poorly directed. Man, Steven, that was a lot you had to have me read there, but really appreciate the comment. Definitely enjoyed the photography of this episode, and I did notice that after the escape from the wedding, he never did transform again after that. Probably was easier on the makeup team as well, having to put that person through makeup. No telling how long it took them to do one episode, depending on what kind of FX or whatever they had to do. So that's probably one of the other reasons why, since it was more of a lower budget episode or lower budget show in general. So I think that's where a lot of things shine. When they don't have a big budget, they're having to think outside the box and how they can be creative with the camera and to maybe just show what can be and can't be a possibility in making a lot of the things that people make in general. I think these episodes give you a lot to take in when it comes to storytelling in general. A lot like Twilight Zone as well. The way they just tell stories with very little visual effects, but it really makes you use your imagination. Just by seeing things, I should say, more like hearing things off screen, and just building really good character goes a long way in a story, regardless of what your budget is. Stephen DeLuca continues on. The term which describes a TV show that has no recurring characters is anthology series. I enjoy your reactions very much, even though my estimation of Architects of Fear is different from yours. I forgive you. It is interesting to see someone your age react to old school TV. I grew up with this stuff. Hey, well, I appreciate you reacting to the episode. Sorry it's been a little while since I've been doing the Outer Limits. Hopefully you catch my Twilight Zone episodes. But when I get busy, I have to cut one of them off a little bit, so I had to back off of the Outer Limits somewhat. And hey, we're back at doing it because it's the holidays and things kind of slow down for me around the holidays, so I can jump on and do more of this. And I might add some more things. I keep saying that I'm going to do it in the near future, but life just keeps getting in the way. It's how it goes. But anyways, yeah, hey, we're all going to have different opinions when it comes to the things that we review. and we're always going to see things differently. It's always good to get different opinions and whatnot. But when it comes to the old school stuff, I'm definitely enjoying them. I'm loving jumping into things that I've never watched before. I've watched a lot of things from today, and I feel like I've seen quite a bit, to the point where I'm now going into the past and diving into things that I've never watched before. And I'm realizing that a lot of things in the past are just better in terms of character development. Today it's a little more flashier. Not saying that there are not movies that don't have character development, because there definitely is. There's some wonderful cinema that still comes out today. Some great TV that is written today. It just seems like back then there was just more things that became classics. Today there are probably more things that become classics today, but when you look at the pool of crap that is swimming with it, you just had more bang for your buck back then, I guess. Rick Kinnett 143 says Andro disappeared because in changing the future he extinguished his own existence. The original spaceship pilot disappeared because he was now surplus to the story. Yeah, definitely understood what was going on there when he had to disappear. I just hated that he had to disappear. Would have been interesting to see that maybe he did still exist and that his monstrous form turned into more of a human form, but then that would mean that he never went back and things never changed. And so, I mean, there's a lot of things that went with it if he didn't disappear, and it was probably just easier to write him out and have him disappear altogether because it was a new future and it just wouldn't make sense otherwise. But yeah, definitely understand. Trepinist says, don't open until Doomsday is my favorite. When we get there, can't wait to check it out. Anyways, let's jump into the episode and see what we're getting into. Hey, you look not of this world.
The Outer Limits. In this room, 24 hours a day, keep constant watch on its scientists through Obit, a mysterious electronic device whose very existence was carefully kept from the public at large.
His father hadn't been on the board of trustees, they would have literally tossed him out of grad school. He doesn't know the difference between a periodic table and a time table.
Derogatory remarks against superior. 12th occurrence.
No. What the hell was that?
Checking resolution, circuitry, and video subcontrol.
It's a bit frightening. Big nose. Probably no problem with sinuses. Oh. Uh-oh. How'd that happen? Uh-oh. The creature's in there with you. How's it mirroring reality? No clue what's going on.
Senator Orville, Mr. Lomax.
Nice meeting him.
I don't quite understand the purpose of this investigation.
Well, a murder's been committed.
To drag the Senate in Washington down here?
Take it easy, Mr. Lomax.
Well, since Captain Harrison's death, we have received all kinds of letters concerning the morale situation at this base. But when a key center of the Defense Department is spotlighted in sordid headlines, the public is justifiably concerned, and I intend to get to the bottom of it.
But you make sense, Senator. Should have more senators like this.
Now, if you gentlemen will excuse me, I believe we're delaying the proceedings.
Barbara, not now. You owe me
What?
a little self-concern.
Get your hands off me.
Just keep on trusting me.
Uh-oh. He's got that hand, that hairy hand, like the creature had. That means he is the murderer. But does he realize he murdered, or I don't know how that works.
Mr. Clyde Wyatt, would you take the stand, please? And you conducted the inquiry into Captain James Harrison's demise.
Yes, sir.
And the body was found in this room?
Yes. Slumped over that machine.
What kind of machine is it?
Computer used to process security data.
Well, now, you examined the body. What were your findings?
The marks at the throat, sir, the way the bone was literally crushed at the base of the skull. I never saw anything like it.
Blunt instrument could have been used?
No. There were no other bruises beyond finger mark.
Well, now, would you say that the center was a reasonably contented, peaceful place?
I don't know what you want to know.
Wouldn't say that the morale at Cypress Hills was any lower than any other installation with the same sort of personnel.
I'm not competent to say, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Wyatt. You may go.
All right.
If Captain Harrison's murder was an act of private passion, then it becomes necessary to understand exactly what relation that passion or that revenge had to the psychological climate of Cyprus. I find it necessary to investigate certain, otherwise irreproachable members of Cyprus Research. Call Dr. Philip Fletcher, please.
What's up, Fletch? Automatic doors back then. That's top shelf. First-rate place there.
Do you recognize this letter, Doctor? You will have to reply aloud, Doctor. The stenographer has to hear you.
Yes.
Yes. I'm not a complaining sort of a person. I try not to be.
No one threatened you or reprimanded you for writing to my office?
No.
How long have you been employed by Cypress Hills?
5 years.
It says here that you were awakened by military policemen, taken out of your quarters. What prompted that? Do you know, Doctor?
I had written some letters.
To who?
I never mailed them. Please, I don't want to tell.
You can't make me.
They kept after me and after me.
Well, how could anyone ever know you wrote those letters, Doctor?
They know everything. And everywhere rumors, fears. Cypress Hills is just like a ghost town. Nobody laughs.
Is there any connection between these letters you mention and the death of Captain Harrison? About these letters, Doctor, I must ask you to explain.
I have a terminal illness.
It's not good.
I want to have at my side someone who is close. I wrote those letters to my son in Philadelphia to come and hold an old man's hand after the pain lets up.
Thank you, Doctor. You may go.
Thanks for letting me opening up to everybody. Much appreciated. It's not automatic. Guard has to open the door for you.
Call Dr. Clifford Scott,
Senator, Dr. Scott is not here.
head of the Cypress Hills Research Center, is unavailable.
Yes.
He's suffering a physical breakdown.
Oh, great.
As acting head of the center, I'll gladly answer all questions in the doctor's absence.
We had planned on calling on you later, Mr. Lomax, but since we've more or less
Get out of the way.
Well, not at all, Senator.
I have here the War Department statistical report on your center about your social problems. Golf tournaments and barbecues, dances, all went virtually unattended.
As with any...
The divorce rate went up 400%. Alcoholism became a major problem. And there were 3 suicides at the center.
Oh, good.
Remember.
Didn't know that.
Now, about that unfortunate homicide. Captain Harrison was operating that machine,
We use it regularly in security procedures.
How exactly does it work?
It's knobs and switches you flip on and off.
Not at liberty to discuss it.
Letter from one of your technicians, a woman. There's a bizarre story going the rounds. They say the center has a peeping Tom machine that follows you anywhere, anytime, and sees and hears everything.
The device is top secret. I am unable to discuss.
So you're allowed to see anything, anywhere, anytime, huh? I guess they were seeing something in another dimension, reality, planet. We don't know yet. Commercial.
I didn't think any outsider would get to see Obit.
They realize that the United States Senate has the right and the duty to get the facts.
Are we going to see a demonstration of the peeping Tom?
This machine can pick up people anywhere, anytime, through steel or concrete walls.
Pick them up, huh?
What do you call it?
O.B.I.T, or Obit. Those are initials for Outer Band Individuated Teletracer.
Wow, it's a mouthful.
A living organism is a transmitter operating 24 hours a day, and brain waves, heart sounds, respiratory rhythms, and, like fingerprints.
You can pick up anyone's signal at will?
Once we have hitting the right buttons and bring them in.
Who is that?
Ed Wilson, one of the draftsmen at Cypress Hills. He's in Washington on a particular project.
Huh. Taking it without warning, huh?
You see, this dial tells us where we're picking up our transmission from. It's like a shortwave receiver. I can turn this dial to a given location and pick up signals from the various persons there. Oh, we're limited to a 500-mile radius now, but we're working to extend that limit. Well, nobody at the center was aware of Obit's existence.
Dr. Fletcher was pulled in for questioning on the basis of the information you received on this machine.
People with nothing to hide have nothing to fear from Obit.
Are you that perfect, Mr. Lomax?
Yes.
I'd hate to have that thing... That'll be all. Oh, just a moment. Are you the inventor of Obit?
Oh, no, Senator. I was assigned to operate it and tabulate statistics.
And by whom?
Well, the Defense Department.
Huh.
Thank you.
So who in the Defense Department did it? It's always one guy. One guy was figuring it out at some point. Unless it was something they stumbled upon.
Colonel Grover, why weren't the American people notified of the existence of this equipment? And who authorized its acceptance and purchase?
head of G2 signed the papers.
Well, now, who wrote the papers that the head of G2 merely signed?
We haven't been able to find him.
Okay. Who is he?
Who manufactures it?
The company has since gone out of business.
Colonel, if this...
So it's a big secret.
Senator, we're as much in the dark as you are.
Colonel, I want every available record on that machine, and I want them quickly. Is that clear?
Okay. The toughie.
Call Mrs. Clifford Scott.
What would she know? I mean, unless the husband said something to her. Or does she know more than she leads on?
Would you take the chair, please, Mrs. Scott? How would you describe the morale climate of Cypress Hills?
Not good. I didn't know it existed until I heard about it this morning.
Your husband never mentioned Obit to you?
No, he never spoke of security matters.
Mrs. Scott, it's in the record that you had filed for separation.
Yeah?
I began to see that he was ill.
What's this have to do with the machine?
Have you ever visited him at the rest home?
I don't know where he is. Phoned and written and hounded the army. Maybe he just doesn't want to see me.
What?
These past months, before they took him away, he imagined things.
What kind of things?
About me.
Oh.
Called me a monster, and then he began to speak of seeing real monsters. Told me that he had had a physical breakdown and that they had taken him somewhere.
Did you locate Dr. Scott yet?
No, sir.
Why not?
I'd like to take this matter up with you during recess.
Recess 10 minutes. Maybe by the playground.
It is not in the best interests of the government for Dr. Scott to attend these hearings.
Who says?
Senator, you have no idea what you're opening up.
Well, perhaps you might enlighten me.
Afraid that's impossible.
Why?
The storm warnings are up back home. You're facing a very rough election, charged with undermining the security of your country. Even at such a price, should you make a moral decision so abruptly?
I want to see Scott.
Ooh. Commercial break. Still have no clue where this episode's heading. Very heroic music. Spending a lot of time on this airplane landing. Is this him?
Dr. Scott doesn't want to see anyone.
What's he look like?
Well, I cannot conduct this investigation without all the facts, and you know this. And Dr. Scott has especially pertinent facts which I need.
Responsibility for interrogating a sick man.
Interrogation, Colonel. Just a few questions.
Few questions, huh? Isn't that considered interrogation? I guess if you're being direct about it, then it's more of an interrogation.
Dr. Scott? Colonel Grover again.
Show the face.
Dr. Scott?
Come in. Dr. Scott, I'm Senator Orville.
I know. The corridor's drafty. Please close the door.
Do you know why I'm here?
Show his face. There he is.
I know what I've been told.
What have you been told?
You're here because you belong here, or you're being held, I believe the word is incommunicado.
Spill the beans.
When I told them what I saw, they got very quiet and looked at me with great quiet eyes. Until they looked at me that way, I was certain that I had seen what I had seen. My life had become a nightmare, so naturally I saw the kind of things that inhabit a nightmare world. I saw a monster. I saw a monster.
Well, what kind? Describe him. Draw him. Get some crayons.
When I told them that, they got very quiet.
Can you describe this monstrous thing you saw?
That's very strange. You're the first one who's asked me to describe it.
Would be the first thing I asked.
Is it my imagination, Senator, or do you believe me?
I believe you saw something.
Why?
Because you believe.
No one has ever been able to convince me that I didn't see it.
Doctor, I'd like you to return with us to Cypress Hills. I'd like to question you on the stand.
Someone else there who doesn't want me to say anything more than I've already said. You'd be...
The guy in the glasses?
Why do you think I'm willing to stay here? Because I'm safe. As long as I'm insane, I'm safe.
Pretty lousy way to live, isn't it, Doctor?
Coward.
I hope that you believe in nightmares, Senator.
Here we go again.
Well, I phoned several times, but they won't let me talk to him. He said that Senator Orville hasn't been at the rest home and hasn't seen my husband.
She's not smoking. Or can you not see cigarettes?
I feel that you don't care about me at all. I do know better, only sometimes I... All right, Byron. Will you call me if you hear anything?
Hey, funky looking whatever it is. It's got one eye.
Something far more worrisome than Scott has come up. Armand Younger.
He saw me?
Never gave it much thought till he read about the investigation.
But if he saw me, I haven't a...
Not your face. He claims he saw the killer from the back as he left the murder scene. He mentioned a peculiar walk he's certain he could identify.
Huh.
Where is he now?
Now they're gonna kill him.
1708 West Holton Street, apartment 12.
I won't be taken by surprise again.
It's Senator Orville. You'll have to sign some documents before you can appear.
Put that thing down! Who are you?
Dead.
Call Armand Younger.
Senator,
He did.
we don't know.
You don't know.
Run away somewhere, I can't say, but we're looking for her.
Colonel Grover, will you please take the stand? Colonel Grover, I assume you have a record of the number of O.B.I.T machines in use at the present time.
Installation check has revealed that there are 18 Obits in use on our military bases, and we've discovered that these machines are also being employed in civilian life.
Are they used in industry?
Education, communication networks, all over the country.
Now, surely there must be a record of the total number of machines installed. None at all?
I feel responsible. I should have spoken out. It's the most hideous creation ever conceived.
Jeez.
It watches, saps the very spirit. And the worst thing of all is, I watch it. I can't not look. It's like a drug, an addiction.
You are dismissed.
What Colonel Grover has done is a very brave thing. The past 24 hours, I have learned facts. I have been advised to leave it alone, to drop it. I have been threatened with the loss of political support, even the ones that no human mind today can explain. Call Dr. and Mrs. Scott, please. Mrs. Scott, would you please be seated? Dr. Scott, would you please take the stand?
Still not sure what's going on with what the creature is and how this machine's doing all this stuff.
How long have you been confined to a rest home?
A month. The doctor said that I was suffering complete exhaustion, anxiety.
Doctor, during this period of time, did you ever suffer from a lapse of memory or incoherence that might tend to impair your judgment?
No.
I'm not crazy.
Can you recall your reaction when O.B.I.T was first installed? Did you notify the Defense Department of this? And what did they do?
I got the view that they thought that the machine was highly successful, eliminating undesirable elements.
Who told you this?
Mr. Byron Lomax.
Uh-oh. You mean the guy sitting in the shadows over there?
Were your relations cordial?
No. Bear to look at the man. I hated what he stood for. I was having what was becoming a daily argument with Lomax over O.B.I.T. He deliberately clicked on a familiar image in a bathing suit lying next to a young officer. It's my wife.
Uh-oh. Blackmail.
She was being overly friendly, perhaps even innocent flirtation, but at the time I was convinced that it was more.
And you questioned her about it?
I made her account to me for every move that she made. I made life miserable for her. I even watched her without her knowing it on the machine. I literally drove her away from me. She was driven to someone else. But I couldn't tell who he was. I'd sit in front of the machine and tune in her image. No matter what I did, I couldn't pick up his image.
And you never found out who this person was?
Well, I discovered who the one person was on the center who never appeared on the screen.
So it was impossible for you to bring in this person's signal?
By violating the machine's operating instructions.
How were you able to use it to follow your wife's activities?
I lied to him.
Do you have any idea how or why Captain Harrison was murdered?
He saw something on the machine he was not supposed to see.
And what was that?
What I saw.
Which was... Uh-oh. There it is.
Mr. Lomax, the machines are everywhere. Oh, you'll find them all over zealous people.
And they'll demoralize you, break your spirit.
Oh, you're a savage, despairing planet. Will fall without even a single shot being fired. Dark persuasion, you demand, insist on knowing every private thought.
Take him away. Oh, he's just disappearing. I was like, what did we just see? I'm sorry, honey. Guess we'll get back together, forgive each other, and maybe come up with some plan to stop aliens from taking over the world.
Agents of the Justice Department are rounding up the machines now. have been cunningly conceived to play on our most mortal weakness. Whether Obit lives up to its name or not will depend on you. We now return control of your television set to you.
That was episode 7. Very interesting episode. Didn't know where it was exactly going. I knew that those were aliens from a different planet. Kind of knew that from the beginning, even though they kind of left it to the interpretation of whether it could be a monster or something from a different dimension. But it wasn't of this Earth, and we found that out pretty quick in the end. And it turns out it was going to be something along the lines of an alien invasion, and they were slowly taking over from the inside and having this machine that can see other people, and it can be the best way of spying on others, especially your spouses, if you think that they are being cheated on. And it seemed like she was cheating on her husband with an alien. So, yeah, I mean, hopefully they can patch up that relationship in the end and everything will be hunky-dory. But the episode, I think, started off slow, but it slowly built up when we were trying to figure out exactly what was going on. Very much of a slow burn sort of episode. I think most Outer Limits are slow burn episodes for the most part. They have interesting ways of looking at the realities of mankind in a way, and makes you wonder where we're going in the future. And it's just kind of a thinking sort of show. But yeah, this one wasn't my favorite. Kind of slow. Again, it's something else about a guy who stumbles upon a possible invasion, which was what the first episode ended up kind of being about. And the last episode sort of was that way, where a creature came into the mix and took away a military man's girl, if you want to look at it in that aspect. But yeah, very different episode. Looking forward to diving into the rest of them. And let me know, comment below what you thought of the episode, and I will go over those comments in next week's episode. The O.B.I.T console is also used in the Uncle headquarters as Mr. Waverly's communication console in the first season of The Man from Uncle, and is also seen during the end credits on later seasons. Oh, that's cool. Peter Brick, who is Senator Orville, later played James Kendall's father in Mind Over Matter, along with Leonard Nimoy, David McCallum, Cliff Robertson, and Barbara Rush. He is one of only 5 actors to appear in both The Outer Limits and The Outer Limits 1995. Well, that's it for this episode. Looking forward to jumping into the rest of them. Tune in next week for the episode 8 that we will have out for you at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And until then, see you later.